All right, let's jump right in with a question that people have dreamed about forever. What if we could actually breathe underwater? Let's explore a world where the ocean could really be our home. Just think about that for a second. Really imagine it. The vast, unexplored two-thirds of our planet, suddenly it's our backyard. No more scuba tanks, no more coming up for air. The oceans would be just as accessible as the land. But what would that world actually look like? Okay, so let's get down to it. The very first hurdle is, well, it's a huge one, and it comes down to simple chemistry. You see, water, even when it's totally full of oxygen, holds about 20 times less of it than the air we're breathing right now. That is a massive biological gap to close. So, yeah, before we start dreaming about building Atlantis, we have to face the music about our own biology. Our bodies, as amazing as they are perfectly tuned for the sky, not the sea. I mean, think about your lungs. They're basically these super delicate, air-filled balloons. They're built to pull in a light, low-density gas without any effort. Now imagine trying to breathe a thick, heavy liquid like water. It would be completely exhausting, if not impossible. And our fragile lung tissues just aren't designed to pull oxygen out of it. So, if our own biology is basically a non-starter, where do we look for a solution? Well, it turns out nature already cracked this problem millions of years ago. Say hello to the gill, and let me tell you, this is not just some simple filter. It is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. Gills are packed with thousands of these paper-thin filaments called lamellae, which create this enormous surface area to maximize every bit of contact with the water. And the secret sauce, the really clever part, is this thing called countercurrent flow. Just picture the water flowing over the gills in one direction, while the blood inside flows in the opposite direction. This super simple trick makes the whole process incredibly efficient. So efficient that fish can pull an amazing 90% of the oxygen right out of the water passing over them. Now compare that to us. In the open air where oxygen is everywhere, our lungs are only about 50% efficient. We can totally get away with that because there's just so much oxygen to go around. But underwater, that kind of inefficiency would be a fatal flaw. But, and this is where it gets really fascinating, humans are incredibly adaptable. Take the Bahau people of Southeast Asia. For centuries, they've lived a life on the sea, and their bodies have literally evolved in response. And you can see just how dramatic that adaptation is. On average, the Bajau have spleens that are a whopping 50% larger than people living on land nearby. This supersized spleen acts like a natural scuba tank, storing oxygenated blood and flooding their system with it when they dive. It's incredible. So the Bajau show us that human bodies can adapt. Now, what if we could just fast-track that with technology? What if we could give everyone the ability to breathe underwater? Well, the economic impact would be absolutely staggering. The blue economy is already a massive force. In the US alone, it's worth nearly $500 billion and supports millions of jobs. That's everything from shipping and fishing to tourism. Now just imagine removing the single biggest barrier to entry, the need to come up for air. We're talking about the potential for permanent underwater cities, like the proposed Sentinels habitat. Tourism would be completely transformed. Forget a quick dive, imagine a week-long vacation in a deep-sea hotel. We could even build vast aquatic farms that could help feed the planet. And get this, even before our hypothetical breakthrough, the marine economy is projected to support 184 million jobs globally by 2050. Now, give us the ability to live and work down there, that number wouldn't just grow, it would explode. You'd have whole new industries, deep-sea mineral extraction, underwater architecture. It'd be like a gold rush under the waves. But all of this sounds a little too good to be true, right? This new power wouldn't come for free. For every incredible opportunity, there would be a risk. A very, very heavy price would have to be paid, both by our bodies and by the planet. It's the question we absolutely have to ask. Whenever humanity expands, the environment tends to pay the price. And, let's be honest, the deep sea is a world our bodies were never meant to inhabit. So let's start with the environment. Coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, are already incredibly fragile. They support fisheries worth hundreds of millions and tourism industries worth billions. Now, picture millions of people building, walking, and living among them. The potential for damage is just immense. And then there's the cost to our own health. These aren't new dangers. Professional divers face them right now. The bends, where gas bubbles literally form in your blood. nitrogen narcosis, which impairs your judgment. Even oxygen itself can become toxic under pressure. These would go from being rare diving accidents to everyday public health crises. And here's the real kicker. Even if we had perfect gills, the water itself is a hazard. Just the simple act of inhaling salt water with all of its pollutants and different chemistry could cause constant inflammation and damage to our internal tissues. Our bodies are designed for a sterile internal environment, not a living ocean. So all of this brings us to the final, and maybe the most profound, consequence. This ability wouldn't just change where we live. It would fundamentally change who we are. An entirely new human culture would emerge. Daily commutes could be through coral gardens. We'd see brand new three-dimensional sports, new forms of art. Our relationship with fear itself might change as that ancient dread of drowning just fades away. Our entire psychology as a species would shift. So, this is the ultimate question we're left with. If we were no longer bound to the land, if our bodies and cultures were completely reshaped by the ocean, would we simply be aquatic humans? Or would we have evolved into a fundamentally different species, the children of the deep?